Hi everybody, this is Harmony with Cornerstone Stitchery and welcome to my channel. Here we talk about my crafting journey, which usually revolves around cross stitch with knitting and crochet thrown in. However, if you watch my last video, you'll know that I'm on a yarn stash down, and so mostly I've been working with yarn. It's been a while since I've been here because of, as you well know, life gets in the way sometimes of, that's how we put it, it gets in the way of our crafting or video making or whatever. It's just seemed like either I didn't have any energy, motivation to make a video, or we were busy during the times that I normally would make a video. So, but I'm back today and hopefully I can keep on a more regular schedule, but we'll see going forward. I have been working on some things and I'm prepared to show you most of them. I did get a cross stitch piece ready for display, but I took it to work and I forgot to take a picture of it first. But I brought down one, a cross stitch design that I laced and framed that I forgot to show you last time. So there is that. So we'll go ahead and get started. I do have one more project over here. Okay. Now we can get started. My special guest is over here. So if you hear snoring, it is him. He is getting ready to take another nap and he's snoring. So, okay. I did put in a little bit of, well, let me rephrase. We have a stitch group on the third Saturday of the month at the Panera in Saginaw. And so July, I put a couple of stitches into the project Into the Woods by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I mean, a couple of stitches. I probably got a couple lengths worth in, to be honest. But the problem was I have the pattern on my iPad and I forgot to charge my iPad. So it was dying. And I think by the time I left the restaurant, it was actually dead. So I was struggling to be able to have the iPad screen on while I was stitching because it was draining. And they do have plugins there, but the Apple plugs are, if you've ever used one of those Apple plug-in things, I call them, my family calls them cubes. They're like those white cubes that you plug the USB in. They are kind of small. So when you plug them into regular outlets, they're kind of wobbly. Any hotel that I've ever taken them to, they just don't fit in the plugs right. So same as with Panera. It doesn't fit the plugs there. So I did what I could and got a little bit. It's not even anything worth showing. It probably wasn't even worth talking about this long. But in August, I took a project. We met last week. I took a project because it was called on my WhipGo, and it's also on my list of cross stitch finishes that I wanted to, cross stitch projects I wanted to finish this year in 2025. And I haven't been cross stitching really for 3 months, but I thought, you know, I'm kind of close. So let's go ahead and take that one and see if we can get a finish. So it's Beekeeper Bigfoot by Sambry Stitches. On here, it actually says Sambry Stitches Designs, but I met her in person and she said that she's going to try to make her design company and her like social media presence kind of match because they don't match right now. But it's just a little guy. So I didn't have all of the necessary floss, so I just kind of pulled numbers or pulled colors that were similar, and I did change things out just a bit. My Ada is rolling up because I stitched this one in hand. So I did changes, like a little bit of changes, but it is finished. I did not finish it on Saturday at Stitch Group, but I only had around 150 stitches to do the next day. So I finished them up last Sunday. And what I did do, if you can tell, I eliminated the birdhouse, the standing birdhouse, and I added another bird and I made it blue, and I added a couple more bees to fill the space, and I think it looks pretty cute. Sorry. So like I said, I pulled If I had the color listed on the chart, the DMC, then I did use that. Otherwise, I just pulled a substitution. Like there was a different bird sitting on the bottom of the birdhouse, and it used DMC 30 for the blue. I didn't have DMC 30, so I just pulled up a color conversion chart, and it said, you know, it gave like 5 examples of some colors that were similar. Not the same, but kind of similar. And and then I didn't have the color for the flowers either, because I think it was the same DMC 30. So what I did is I pulled what I did have. I pulled 155 and 156, or 154 and 155. I can't remember. And so I used the more purple color for the flowers and the more blue color for the bird. Other than that, I did everything that she said to do. I did miss a flower right here at the top of the arbor. And after I was already done putting the flowers in, I said, you know, it'll be fine. It'll be fine without that flower. So the only thing that is missing is the birdhouse, 1 flower, and the bird that she charted. I just took the hummingbird, the green hummingbird, and I just did a mirror image and put it over here as a blue bird. That's all. But I do have another finish. I think that might be 3 finishes for 2025. But then I will show you the one that I laced and framed before I did the last video and forgot to show you. This is the Jesus piece that I was working on, and I finished up the stitching and laced it. And I really like how I'm going to pat myself on the back and say that I did a really good job, because I got it in the corner like I was supposed to. My daughter said that it couldn't be better, because he's popping out of the corner like it was charted to. So that's this one. I did get this one on Etsy. If you search for it on Etsy, you'll find it. There's a couple of different versions. I chose that one because it was more, I don't know. I thought it looked better, I guess. I don't really know more anything. So, and then I think it was at the end of June, after I did my last video, I picked up the yarn that I bought for my husband while we were on the yarn haul, and I knit him a hat, and I'll show it to you, but then we'll talk about it. So this is called the Bankhead hat, and you might be saying, Harmony, that's a pretty large hat, and you'd be right. This is Malabrigo Rios. I don't know the colorway. The tag is over in my tiered cart somewhere. It is very lovely, and it's very squishy. The feel of the yarn is just fantastic. When you're making it, I have already blocked it. It's dried and everything, and it's ready to give away. But what happened is I did measure my husband's head, but usually I have a tight knitting gauge. So I was not going to make a swatch. Yeah, I didn't make a swatch, and look at what happened. But the sizing came out, I think, even bigger than what it said on the pattern. So I have a friend at church that would love this color as well, and he has a little bit larger head than my husband, so I'm hoping that this fits. But you should have saw it when it was wet. When I took it out of the bath, it was huge, you know, because the yarn relaxes and, you know, is wet, and it did go back down to a decent size. It grew a little bit from when I knit it, but that's probably just because the stitches are relaxed now that they've been washed. I'm hoping it fits because it's very lovely, and I don't want to knit it again. Not that the pattern, anything was wrong with the pattern. I don't necessarily like the decreases on the top, but I don't know why, because they do line up with, as you can see, that there's columns of purl stitches. The decreases do line up with those purl stitches, but when you get down to the last very few stitches, I don't know. It's not my favorite, but it's better than some other hats that I made. So this is the Bankhead. I can't remember who designed it, but this is done. So that's one more. I do have some left over, but I did work on knitting stash. Then I picked up the yarn that I bought for myself to make a Musselburgh hat and tragedy struck, so to speak. So this is what it looks like knit up. It's not finished, but we're getting there. And I noticed that as I'm knitting it and the inches are being knit and the yarn is disappearing, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to have enough. So I looked at the pattern, and sure enough, I had misread the pattern. It was my fault, not the pattern's fault. I thought I was going to have enough yarn with my gauge, because usually I'm getting about 6 to 7 inches per inch on, well, this time I knit on 2.5, size 2.5. I don't remember what needles I used for the bank head, and I don't know if I made, I'll have to check to see if I made a Ravelry page, but I have no idea. So I was getting 7 inches or 7 stitches to an inch, and my gauge, and you're not off on gauge on the Musselburgh. She gives all the calculations based on what you're getting on gauge. So I wasn't off gauge, but I think I looked at the wrong chart when I declared, oh yes, I have enough yarn. So what I did is I knew that I had some leftover white, Cascade Heritage white, that I used for a different project. And I said, well, I'll just knit with that because it will kind of go with the whitish color in this yarn, and then I can just tuck it on the inside and nobody will know any different. Well, I ran out of that too. I had less than I thought, and I was able to get this far. I am 3 inches away from starting the crown decreases. Yeah, so that's pretty disappointing, but here's what I have so far. I have my other needle stuck in here, so I don't lose it. So then I stayed home and recovered from a migraine, and I asked my husband to run down to the store and get me a skate, because he was I was gonna go get it the next day, but I figured, you know, I'm not feeling well and he's super close to SVRC. And so I said, can you go down and get me some yarn? And I told him exactly what I needed. I sent him a picture of the label, and they were all out. Someone came in the day before and wiped them out of that color, and so now I don't have any. And so I'm waiting for her to get some more. And he did ask, is another color, like, can you use another color? No. I probably could, but I have a plan for the rest of the white. I'm going to marl it with, or hold it double with the a pink and a purple color that I have of Cascade Heritage, and use up that yarn as well. I thought that that would be a perfect way for me to knit some more from my stash. So it'll be fine. I can wait. And I don't even care if it's slightly a different color, like, because I don't know if that's undyed or bleached or however they do that. I don't even care if it's slightly different, because it's going to be tucked in the inside and all of the purple is going to be outside. So, and then since the other hat's not started, it doesn't matter what color it is. So then I grabbed, after that, I grabbed my circular needle, and I picked up some yarn and started making another Musselburgh, because I already had this yarn caked up. I caked it up a long time ago. I was going to make a Musselburgh, and then I sat it down and I had to rip out a whole bunch, so my yarn is everywhere. I made a mistake. I don't know if I made a mistake. I don't know what really happened, but I just knew I had to rip it out. And then I made a mistake when I was picking up the stitches, so then I had to rip back even further. It was a whole thing. But this is Quirky Sock by this Simply Socks Yarn Company. And I've knit 2 Musselburghs out of this already, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I am just about at the crown decreases, because I was already halfway through the crown decreases when I'm like, something's not quite right. And I really don't even know, like I said, I don't know what was wrong, but I didn't like it. So this is, I don't know what colorway this is, because I think I lost the label. I've probably had this kitted up for well over a year. So, and the whole time I'm knitting this, I'm complaining and complaining and complaining about the yarn. It is splitty. It is a little splitty because it's marled yarn, so they applied 2 colors together. So by nature, it's splitty. But for me, the problem is when you're pulling the yarn off the ball, and I caked that up because it comes in balls, and I'm going to show you. But both times when I used it off the ball and I caked it up, it didn't matter. It curls up on itself, and you're constantly having to uncurl it in order to knit. And it's super annoying. So if you're a knitter or crocheter and you've ever had that happen, I think that we can relate on that level. If you don't, just trust me, it's the most annoying thing. Like if you cross stitch and you're constantly getting knots in your yarn, especially on the back of your project, it's something similar. It's very annoying. So a similar thing there. So I was getting near the end, and I think it was actually last week before Stitch Group, I just said, I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm not stitching this anymore. I've got 4 more balls. I'm not doing it. 2 is enough, and I'm going to sell it. I'm done. Well, when I went and dug it out from upstairs, I found not 1, but 2 Musselburgh hats using the quirky sock yarn from Simply Socks. And I'm like, that's fantastic, because now I only have 3. Again, I have no idea what color numbers these are because the tags are long gone. I don't keep them. And I don't think that I put these on Ravelry. I have no idea what size Musselburghs these are. They're kind of small. They're kind of not soft. They are stretchy. I'm going to wash them before I give them away. All of them. I usually do wash my things before I give them away. So I have 2 Musselburghs waiting in the give pile, but then I have 3 more. So then when I pulled these out though, I said, why didn't I choose this one or this one instead of this one? Like, why did I choose this earth tone one versus the nice pretty one, the colorful ones? I have no idea. This one's got greens, golds, tans, browns in it. This one's pretty cool. And this one is cool, but why didn't I pick this one? I have no idea. Past self did it, and I don't know. So I do have 3 balls left. I don't really recall how much I spent on these, but I do know that I got 6 balls all together. It was in a sock club, a 3-month sock club. You got 2 balls each month, and I don't want this. And if you're willing to put up with the curling on itself, this yarn may be for you. It is 75 superwash merino and 25% nylon. It does not feel like it. It does not feel, this is superwash merino and nylon, and this feels so soft compared to this. Now, it doesn't scratch my hands or anything. It doesn't scratch. It's just different, probably because of the marling. It's just different than the other yarns. And this is Cascade Heritage Paints, color 612, if you're wondering, because I did look it up to see if I could get more, and I couldn't find any. I couldn't find any relatively close or in the country or something or other, and that's why I said that wasn't an option, and I went with something else. But so if you want 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon, this is 440 yards per ball. You can make a great pair of socks with these, or a Musselburgh hat, or you can find your own pattern. But if you'd want one or all of these, they would be $5 a piece. Otherwise, I'm going to wait a month, and then I'm going to put them on Facebook Marketplace, because life is too short for me specifically to knit with this yarn. But if you want to give this a try, that's great. Okay? Okay, so that was that. And I have a finish. I actually have 2 finishes. The first one is the Astro Pop by Olive Knits, Marie Green, specifically from Olive Knits. And this was the 4-day knit along that she has been doing for 9 or 10 years now. I think she said 9. She did hint that year 10, maybe her last, and that'll be super sad. This is the second one that I've participated in just because it never really fell during a time where I had money to purchase the yarn. But you saw this yarn when I filmed the last video, and I talked about it in the recap of the yarn crawl, and I have a finish and also a tragedy, but not a super huge tragedy. So I will show you my sweater. I was going to put it on, but then it's kind of warm, and so I'm not putting it on, but I hope that you get it, the gist. Let me see. So this is my Astropop. And it is crop. I could have knit it a little bit longer and it not been crop, but I find that if I just take the ribbing on the front and just do a little bit of tuck in the top of my jeans, it's super cute. I actually have a silly picture that my family took, and I'll try to remember to put it in here. But this has been blocked. I've washed it or wore it twice, once to church, once to work. And it fits perfectly. It really does. I was worried about the sleeves being a little bit too tight because I think my tension was a little bit tighter on the sleeves for some reason this go round. But the tragedy comes when I had a feeling that the red was going to bleed, and so I ordered some color catcher, and so it took a while. And I say ordered it because I did order it from Amazon. You can get it from Meijer, but the box that they had at Meijer was a 72 sheet box, and I don't need 72 sheets, so I wanted to buy a smaller box. So I got a smaller box from Amazon. And it came the next day or the day after, and I then got to work, and I've got hair all over it, and blocked this, and pretty soon after I put it in the water, I knew that I had a problem. The red bled so much. It was as if the dyer did not rinse the yarn after it came out of the dye pot. It was crazy insane. So, and I don't know if you can tell on camera, but my white is no longer white, but it has a hint of pink. I rinsed it out as best as I could, and someone later told me, like in the Stitch Along group or the Knit Along group, said next time use vinegar. Well, I didn't know it was going to bleed that bad. I thought the color catcher was going to be enough. I put one sheet in, and then yelled at my husband. He yelled to my husband to get me another sheet. And then by the time he got the sheet and brought it to me, I said, forget it. There's no amount of color catcher in the world that is going to help me with this. So it is much more noticeable. The bleed is more noticeable here than it is in the stripes. But I'm still going to wear it because it took me 8 days to knit. Now I did knit the smallest size, and she does say, you know, if you're knitting the biggest size, it's going to take you more than 4 days. And it's not a race. It's not necessarily about finishing in 4 days. It's about challenging yourself, setting the challenge for you. How much would you like to get done in the 4 days? The Knit Along actually goes for the whole month, and she gives away prizes for the entire month, but it's challenging yourself to get, you know, do you want to just get to the sleeve divide? Do you want to get through the stripes? Do you want to get through the body and just have the ribbing finished, the ribbing and the sleeves? Because a lot of patterns tell you to knit the whole body first and then come back to the sleeves. I did not do that. I actually attached a new ball and knit the sleeves first because I wanted to be sure that I had enough yarn to do the body, but then I have almost a full ball left because I knit it till the length it said in the pattern, and it ended to be cropped. I have enough to where I could have made it longer, but I was done. At 8 days, I was done. It took me, I could only get 16 rows, and here, let's show you the lace on the side. This is on each side, this lace pattern. But because of the pattern, I could easily keep track of how much progress I was making each day, and I was only making it through the pattern repeat twice each day, and that's 16 rows. And so for me, that felt like extremely slow, but it's fine. I'm fine with the length, and it may grow as I wear it, and I'm gonna have to wash it again, so it may grow a little bit more, and that'll be fine. Okay, so I have that finish. I did not finish any. I finished 2 red balls. I had 5 balls of yarn or hanks of yarn all together for that sweater. I finished 2 whole red ones, used part of a red one, most of the blue, because I did use the blue to make my gauge swatches. So I probably have 25% of the blue left, and I probably have about 10 to 15% of the white left. I did not weigh them yet. They're in my bag ready to go upstairs. So, oh, I have a receipt popping out of my pocket. So I wasn't able to knit through the whole thing, but I will use that yarn for something else. But now I also know that the red will bleed, so I might even wash the red before I use it, especially if I'm going to use it with the white. So there is that. So I learned a lesson. So after I was done with that one, so I started it the evening of July 3rd because she sent us the pattern so we could start early. And then I finished 8 days later. So sometime later on the next week, I finished and I picked up A Languishing Whip, which was the zip line by Marie Green of Olive Knits. And it's been up in my stash. I'm going to be honest. I purchased the yarn on August 2nd, 2019, and I cast on shortly after it arrived. So this sweater has been up there for a long time, and I'm gonna explain why it was up there. I was having trouble with my yarn overs, not doing yarn overs, but they're mismatched yarn overs. And Patty Lyons talks about this in her Knitting Bag of Tricks book. And Marie Green actually talked about it in both this sweater and the Astro Pop sweater. And I tried all of the tips from Patty Lyons' book and Marie Green's instructions in the sweater, and both sweaters actually, because I did this one second. So I used the tips that she used in both sweater patterns to try to get my yarn overs to match and be the similar size, and they're not. And so after trying a couple of different techniques and I couldn't get them to be the same size, I just rolled with it and I said, you know what, having the sweater to wear is going to be better than fussing about whether or not all of my yarn overs are the same size. And unless you're listening to me talk about it, you're not going to know. So if I wear this to work, you're not going to know. Well, it turns out I'm not wearing it to work and it may not actually be finished, and so we might have to do something. So I was having trouble interpreting part of the pattern. This one is knit from the bottom up, and you do the ribbing, then it says do the pattern and do the pattern until the lower body equals so many inches. And I was knitting and thinking to myself, does that mean lower body meaning just the pattern part or including the ribbing? Well, now that I'm completely done with it, I actually, before I even put the sleeves on, I tried it on and I'm like, oh, I think she meant without the ribbing. So it should be 2 inches longer than what it is. I'm hoping that because this is wool, it's superwash merino and merino wool marled together to make this really cool. Here, let me get the yarn. So this yarn is called Trenzado by Haiku, which is a yarn brand by Makers Mercantile in Oregon. And if you can see, it's 2 different colors marled together. And it's not really marled together. It's because one is superwash and one is superwash merino and one is merino, which means non-superwash. They take the dye differently. So it looks like it's marled yarn when it's just because of the dye process. So it should grow. I'm hoping it should grow a little bit. So this, besides the massive amount of ends to weave in, because each one of those little balls is only 109 yards. So you have to add on balls of yarn sooner than, like this one, you don't have to add any yarn at all. So this is finished, but it is 2 inches short. My daughter tried it on. She likes it. We're hoping it does grow a little bit. Otherwise, my only idea is that I take out the bottom ribbing and knit and stockinette and then put the ribbing back on, because I don't know how to reverse engineer like the lace pattern. I don't want to do that because the ribbing alone is like 16 inches and there's hundreds of stitches and I don't like ribbing to begin with. But I'll show you the sweater. Here's the sweater. It's super short And this is not blocked yet, so I'm hoping that it will grow. When I'm sitting down, it's a very good length, but you know, if you're standing up or you raise your arms or anything, then it's not. So as you can see, you might be able to see on one side of the zigzag, my yarn overs are bigger than on the other side of the zigzag, and that's just the way that it is at this point. You can still see it, but I'm be interested to see what it looks like when it's blocked, because I'm hoping that everything just opens up and loosens up and it makes it longer and wider. So this is the full sweater, long sleeves, all complete. This, as it sits, this looks like a kid's sweater because it's so small. It's so cute though. And the body fits. It's just a little bit too short. Both of us would have preferred it to be a little bit longer. And that's my fault. I should have reached out to her via email. I should have reached out and just clarified. Does that mean 10 inches of pattern be including or not including the ribbing? But that's okay. It's okay. So because of that, I have over 2 balls of yarn left, but I had 12. So 9 are completely gone. 9 balls are completely gone, and that's pretty good. And if I don't do anything to this sweater, I have to weave in the ends and block it, and then we'll see. But if I don't do anything to this sweater, that's gonna make a really good hat. And I don't know what hat, but some hat. It's so soft and squishy, this yarn. It has been discontinued. And that's another, that also played into the confusion too. It gave me anxiety because I can't find it anywhere. While I looked on Maker's Mercantile, and I don't think, because it's their yarn line, I don't think that you can buy anywhere else. I did look on Ravelry and I didn't see that this particular colorway was in someone's stash, but it was discontinued a couple years ago. And this also teaches me, and hopefully maybe you too, a really good lesson about knitting it sooner rather than later, because if I had in hindsight, I had plenty enough yarn to knit 2 more inches. 1 ball would have, definitely got me the 2 inches, and I was, per the pattern, I was supposed to have 1 ball left over, so I had plenty of yarn, but I was worried about running out of yarn. Since it's not available to purchase anymore, I was really having some anxiety. So my fault, lesson learned, but then I finished that. And then the only other thing that I started was to use up stash. I have all of this colored yarn that I used to make the unicorn for Christmas last year. Lime green, purple, hot pink, light pink, orange, and turquoise. So I don't know how I was going about looking for a pattern, but I wanted to try to use all of the yarn. All of the yarn, and the light pink, everything's still connected to all the balls, I think. Oh yeah, I'm ripping, I just started that, okay. So it's just connected to green, sorry. I started making this and then I set it down and I haven't picked it up since. It's actually really squishy and soft. So I don't know how I began to look for patterns. Okay. Now I remember. I was going to succumb to the idea of making the 6-day star blanket by Betty McKnits. Now, I had my reservations about this pattern to begin with, and that's why I worded it that way, succumb to the idea of making it. And this is why, because in the pattern, and everybody that I saw making this talked about this aspect, like if it curls, then you need to go up a hook size because this is a crochet project. And I'm like, no, that's not right. So I'm like, well, it doesn't matter because I'm not going up a hook size. I'm gonna go with it. I had all of the setup rows complete because I think there's 9 setup rows, And then you get into the pattern repeat rows. And I don't even know what row I was on, maybe row 2, row 1 of the pattern, actually, of the pattern repeat rows. And I came around, you know, and it looks like a star. There's peaks already forming. And I got to the top of the peak and I'm like, this is not right. I don't know why she did it, but she wrote the pattern incorrectly. And I believe, with my experience as a crocheter for the last 30 years, 25 years, that error is what caused it to curl, not your hook size. So I called it quits and I unraveled it, and I am not making that pattern. And the reason is, yes, I could probably take the time to fix it, but I was not going to spend the time on correcting her mistakes. I think she did it like that for a reason, but it's not correct. So I found a different pattern. I don't even know what this pattern is called. I am modifying it a tad because it calls for more colors than what I had. And one of my colors, the very light pink, is dangerously running low. So I had to strategically place my colors in order to not run out of anything. So again, all of the information for everything will be listed in the description, so you can go and look there for the name of the pattern that I'm using as like the base for this idea. And so it will be checkerboard. So my checkered boards are smaller than what the pattern calls for, and I have less colors. So the color that I'm running out of is this light pink, and yes, there's going to be ends galore. This light pink I'm running out of, so I'm only going to use it, I think, one more time, I think. And so you make 5 strips of all the different color combinations that you want, and then I'm going to crochet them together with a color, whatever's has the most left over, and then I'm going to put a couple rows of border around the whole thing. So this is the front, and that's why I'm showing it. The back looks okay, but when you're carrying colors, the back doesn't look as great. So I'm just going to make a blanket, and it will probably be gifted when it gets done. I don't know when it will get done, but it doesn't take very long to make a square. I made one here at home, and then I made 2 in the car on the way to Detroit one day. And then I forgot my scissors, so I had all the yarn was attached, all the colors were attached, and it was super annoying, and it was getting very tangled, so I did not crochet on it on the way home from Detroit. So this will be in the works. But I figured I need 25 squares. I have 3 done, so it means math tells me I have 22 squares left to go. I could do 1 a day, and it probably takes me a half an hour, 45 minutes, if that. I could do 1 a day and be done with the squares in 22 days. That's 3 weeks. But as you can tell, I went to Detroit last month, and ooh, something's happening outside. Somebody's yelling. Don't know what that's about. Okay, so then one more thing. While we're talking about me trying to knit through my stash and destash all of my yarn, one of my local shops that carries yarn is going out of business. She wants to retire, and so I went up there when she posted that yarn was 40 to 50% off. Now, I did not find any 50% off yarn. I don't know what yarn that was, but I did find 2 sweater quantities of DK for 2 sweaters that I've had in my favorites or whatever on Ravelry for years now. And now I know, like, Harmony, you're trying to destash. What are you doing? Okay, sometimes you have to take the opportunity to buy yarn when it's cheap, so that way you can fit it in your budget. I've talked about my budget before, right? So I will be able to make 2 sweaters for $53. My time doesn't count because it's my craft and I'm not selling it, so I don't need to factor in time. But the cost of the yarn was $53 for 2 sweater quantities. And I feel that that's better than a fast fashion mass produced sweater at the store. So I have 2 sweater quantities. My daughter also bought me this, for my birthday, she bought me this acrylic thing with 2 drawers. It has 2 little drawers that come out. And so I just put it in here for the time being, but I do kind of want to knit one of the sweater. I just don't have the patterns yet. So both colors of yarn, I have a gray and a pink. They are color numbers. They don't actually have names. I don't know what number on here is the actual color number. Maybe 21 and 22, maybe. I have no idea. I don't know. But they're both Sidar country style. This one says Highlands and Islands country style, and this one just is country style. They're quite old. At one point in time, the owner of the store did tell me that she bought out another lady that wanted to retire, so this is probably in her shop. And so I got 9 balls of each. I think the one sweater I really only needed like 7.5, but I figured I had the opportunity to buy 9. So I bought 9, and then that way I can choose what sweater I want to be light gray and what sweater I wanted to be the pink color. And then I had the opportunity to do that. Otherwise, if I only bought 8, then I wouldn't have enough for the other sweater. So, and then that also gives me some to do a gauge swatch as well. And I might only have to do 1 gauge swatch for both sweaters depending on what needle size each designer used. Because, you know what? I think they're both by Tin Can Knits, to be honest. So, and I know Tin Can Knits is a pair of friends, but if they're designed and knit by the same person behind Tin Can Knits, I might actually get lucky and only have to make 1 gauge swatch for the 2 sweaters. I will just have to remember to make really good notes in my Ravelry so I know what needle I used and what gauge I actually got, so that way I can transfer it to the other sweater. I think that's all. My plans continue to knit through my stash of yarn. I have 4 sweater quantities upstairs that I know of, that I can think of off the top of my head, and then these 2, which makes 6 altogether. I have the pattern for at least 1. I have a list going in my phone, and I'm recording on my phone. But what I started to do is make a list in my notes app of all of the yarn that I knew I had, and then the patterns that I would be making with them. And then I have check boxes next to them, and I'm checking the box when I have the pattern, when I have the yarn. And so I know for sure that I have the yarn and the pattern for the Brunswick by Olive Knits, Marie Green. So it will be my 3rd sweater by Marie Green. And it's actually a baby doll tee, so it's not like the Astro Pop is also a t-shirt, but it's made out of DK weight cotton. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head what size or what weight the yarn is. That I think it's worsted actually. But anyways, it's the Brunswick, and it has a cute little detail at the bottom, and it's knit from the top down. So that's super exciting. So I can try it on after, you know, as I go, to make sure that I'm getting the length that I want, as long as I have the yarn. Now, here's the cool thing too about this particular pattern. It's knit from the top down. You put the neckline on after, so I will probably, once I split for the seam or the sleeves, or I run out of a 1 ball of yarn, I'll probably put the neckline on, the neckband on, and then attach that to the body and continue knitting. And I want to, and then do the sleeves too. And I want to do that so that way I have that done, and you don't have any fear of running out of yarn and not having enough to do the neckband or the sleeves. Then when I'm done with sleeves, if I feel, and knitting the body, if I feel that I'm running out of yarn, I can take the accent color and I can just start the color work sooner rather than later. And then that way I can completely, if I have the opportunity, I could completely use up the main color and then use more of the accent color. And if you have an opportunity and you have Ravelry or just want to browse the internet, Olive Knits does have a website. You can find the Brunswick on there, and it's really cute. It just has, I think 8 or 9 rows of color work before the ribbing, or maybe you do knit a little bit after the color work is actually done with the accent color, and then the ribbing is in the accent color as well. And it's really cute. My husband actually liked that pattern. And he said you should knit that one, and so I bought the yarn, and I can't remember exactly what color, but I think it's a base. The base color is cream with speckles, and I think the accent color is pinky purple. I don't know. And I think they're both actually from Lolo Did It, and I think both colors are from, at least one color. It's from the Walking Dead collection that she had years ago. And again, I bought the yarn in August of 2019. It is time to knit the Brunswick. So I am going to put all of this away. Oh, I do have one more project. Okay, so this yarn I bought to make socks. And then I found out it had cashmere in it. And while you want your hand knit socks to be super lovely, I did not want to, and I don't know what happened to my ball band over here. It's super handy to be doing my videos down here next to my space, because that's usually where I collect all my ball bands. It is from Dream in Color, and it's called Smooshy Cashmere. Now, yeah, I didn't notice that, okay? I didn't notice it. Big letters right on there, it says Smooshy Cashmere. Whatever. And the colorway is Caldera, and it's 70% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon. So some people would argue that it doesn't have enough nylon to make socks, but I was watching a YouTube video where the master knitter on that YouTube video, she makes socks and the yarn doesn't necessarily have any nylon at all. And it's fine with her, but the experts, you know, she's a master knitter though. She teaches knitting classes and she's fine with it, but other people say that you should have 15 to 25% nylon. This has 10. There's 400 yards in here. The pattern I picked uses 410 yards on a size 6 needle. I went down to a size 4 needle and crossing my fingers that I have enough yarn, because I was not doing a gauge swatch, because come on, it's a scarf. It's a scarf. This is called, I don't know. The pattern page that I printed out does not have a pattern name, so you're gonna have to check the description for me, okay? I think it's called the Atlantis, but I can't remember exactly. But this is the yarn as it's caked up, and it's all dark and moody, and it's really cool. The hank looked more white than this, but I'm really liking the dark and moody, and that's fine. And this scarf is really neat. It's a different kind of scarf than I've ever knit before. You knit a really long lace panel, and it's really long, and then you go, when you're done with the lace panel, then you go back and you pick up stitches along the edge, and then you do short rows to make the scarf, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. And this is gonna be hard to see just because as I'm working, I'm turning. I don't know about you, if you knit or crochet, do you turn your work in the exact same way every single time? Because this is all twisted up on itself now, and I've noticed that, and I'm trying to like get myself to like, okay, stop, you need to twist it the other way now. But this is my lace panel. I don't know if you can see it, but it increases here, and so it's gonna have these nice little points, and it's really cute. And that's all I'm going to really say about the pattern, because it is a paid pattern and I probably said too much already. But I am almost finished. I have maybe another hour's worth of work on the lace panel before I can pick up stitches for the rest of the scarf. So I do like challenging myself a little bit. I don't want things to necessarily be boring. The Musselburghs that is just stockinette round and round and round, there's definitely a place for that. Definitely. I actually, the purple one, the purple Musselburgh, I actually took that to Detroit too with us. And I took it in a crossbody bag, a clear one, so that way if they had any questions, they can clearly see the only thing I had in my bag was my ID and my ball of yarn and my hat that I was knitting. And I was knitting. I'm teaching myself to knit and not look. And that came in really handy because I was walking around the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Arts, knitting all day. And I got so much done and we had such a great time. So there's definitely a place for stockinette stitching. But this I have to really pay attention so I don't mess up the lace, because it's definitely like a pattern where you're gonna notice a mess up, and I'll show it to you in more detail when I finish it and it gets blocked, because it's gonna open up and you're gonna see it. So there is this. I'm super excited about this, but I have to finish this brownish Musselburgh hat, and then I need to finish the lace pattern on here so I can move on to the next step. And then once I finish the Musselburgh pattern, I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm gonna get the yarn for the Brunswick, and I'm gonna cake all of that up and I'm gonna get started. Because I am serious about knitting my stash. I know that I just bought 2 more quantities, but I can make a baby, well, that Astro Pop was in DK and I made it in 8 days. So if I focus, it's not gonna take me that long. It's just I have to get myself around to it, and I have to buy the patterns that I need to knit the yarn. I did have a sweater quantity up there to make a certain pattern. I'm not going to say what pattern there, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with the pattern. It's just I decided that that's not the kind of sweater that I want to be making, so I'm going to be dividing that up, and it is a big long knee length long sleeve sweater. So I have like probably 8 skeins, 5 skeins, a lot. And so I'm going to be breaking it up into a couple of different projects. I do have from Lolo Did It, when the Barbie movie came out, she did a Barbie and Ken collection, and I bought the Barbie and Ken duo, like 2-pack, and so one's hot pink and one's a really nice blue charcoal gray. And so I want to make a striped t-shirt out of that, and I know which one. I just have to buy the pattern for that as well. So I am serious about this, and I hope that, like I said in the last video, if you came to my channel because of cross stitch, I hope that you stay with me to watch the journey and the cool projects, mostly sweaters and some hats, that I'm going to be making with my yarn stash, and to see that I'm not talking a talk that I'm not willing to walk. I really am serious about knitting my stash to lighten my load and to I don't know what the correct word is, but to, I spent the money on those things, so I want to use the patterns and the yarn that I already purchased. So I hope that you stay with me. I hope that something in this video encouraged you to either pick up a languishing whip, or maybe to even try something new. Challenge yourself maybe just a little bit, because sometimes it can be fun, frustrating, but also fun. You'll feel so accomplished at the end. So until I see you next time, bye.